Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ingrid's World. I am Ingrid Hicklin, your host. On this episode, we welcome Dr. Jabbar Hicklin, a licensed clinical psychologist in California, adjunct faculty member at a community college in Los Angeles. His experience is with the forensic population and has a primary interest in personality disorders. On that segment, we will have Anita Washington, who holds a Master's of Education and an MBA. She is a host of a video blog, That Anita Live, and the Emotional Happiness Podcast. She provides a wonderful platform for women to learn, laugh, and more importantly, heal emotionally by learning about their challenges and successes of others. Together, we will discuss Anita Washington's latest book, Family is Not Everything: How to Minimize the Mess, Maximize Your Happiness, and Enjoy Emotional Baggage Breakthroughs. Our last segment will be Linda Eatmon-Jones, award-winning author of Touchstones for Impact book series, which is it's about unsung heroes who turn lemons into lemonade. She's a passionate blogger for a better quality of life and a board member of organizations empowering underserved communities and preventing child abuse. So let's meet our first guest, Dr. Jabbar Hicklin and Anita Washington. Welcome to you both being here.
How are you?
Thank you. So, Jabbar, you're going to be handling this interview. Why don't you just go ahead, because we got a lot of good information.
Okay.
So what's your first question?
My first question, Anita, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as Ingrid mentioned in the intro, I have a Master's of Education and MBA. I spent about 10 years counseling people from the ages of 11 to 55. I'm a lifelong learner, author and speaker, and this latest book is really broadening my horizons.
Wow.
Okay. So you're a counselor. What motivated you to become a counselor?
I like helping people with their problems, life issues. Growing up, I was always that friend that people would come to ask, what should they do, or what did I think? Because my perspectives are always the opposite of the group. So
I share that kind of that look. I do too.
So as a counselor, I'm sure you have some thoughts about where most of our life difficulties come from. What are your thoughts about where they come from?
I feel most of our life difficulties begin in our childhood.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's a lot of it's a time period in where, as a minor, you don't have control. You're kind of just whisked from one place to another or from one situation to another, depending on the adults that are in your life. And then there isn't a time period where everybody sits down to heal. Life just keeps pushing through. So when you push out of childhood into adulthood, even though they aren't surface issues, or those behavioral issues may not be dysfunctional, to the point that it's disturbing your normal function of life, you're still carrying it, and eventually it's something that you will have to deal with.
Emotional baggage.
Yes.
Okay.
I just love that title, Family's Not Everything.
So what's your philosophy of how people change, given that?
People change, they either change by being forced, depending on the situations that they're presented with, or they're changed when they get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Wow.
And they have to sit down and figure something out.
Wow.
Okay. And you've written a couple of self-help books, one of which is Family is Not Everything. That's a catchy title there. We got to talk about that.
I know.
So what motivated you to name your second book, Family is Not Everything?
Family is not everything, because I want people to be aware that there are families that exist. So when you're pressuring someone during that season, it's the holiday season, or with Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, whatever that is, you may not be sending them back into a healthy environment. You may be sending them back into a very tumultuous and violent environment. So it's best to be aware and respect people's wishes. So if somebody says, no, I don't think I'm going to go visit my family or my parents or my siblings for the holiday, respect that.
Wow.
Are there any other factors that motivated you to write the book? It touches upon several important issues, including sibling abuse.
Yes.
Any other factors that may have motivated you to write the book?
Sibling abuse is it's a type of abuse that is not discussed widely. I think, and I mentioned a number of reasons in the book, but more so parents say that they can't tell the difference between just sibling rivalry and sibling abuse. But when one child continuously overpowers the other, or if one child is a roughhouser and the other one is not, but constantly picking on the other one, and in my case, if one child is 10 years older and almost twice the size,
Wow.
to me that is very blatantly obvious of what's the difference between sibling rivalry and sibling abuse. But I want parents to be aware of that.
Okay. And I think whenever we discuss abuse, any type of abuse, the issue of trauma arises. And I think the issue of trauma is discussed in your book. How would you say trauma continues to impact our lives after we've experienced it?
When, as we do as adults, when we don't sit down and deal with our history or our past,
Right.
then it displays itself in other ways. You may be wondering why someone has continuously picked the same type of spouse. And then the relationship always ends. You may wonder why somebody uses retail therapy when they're already in
Debt. They're in debt. I gotta speak on it. They're in debt. Why are you at the mall?
right. Right, but when you dig into it, you begin to peel back that onion. 9 times out of 10, you can trace it back to something that happened in their childhood.
Right.
Okay. I think in your book, you not only discuss the issues of sibling abuse and not only sibling abuse and trauma, but you talk about how to, heal, how to get over them. You mentioned several techniques, and we'll get to them in a moment.
Okay.
But in the book, you discuss the importance of self-awareness. I think self-awareness is very important in improving our lives. How do you think one develops self-awareness if one doesn't quite have it already?
First, they have to be open to it and want to be more self-aware. A lot of people don't like looking at themselves because they're afraid of what they may see. But to become more self-aware, the one question that a person continuously can ask themselves is why? Why do I pick these colors? Why do I choose to live in this neighborhood? And I think I list maybe 10 or 11 very simple questions that someone can ask. Why do I choose coffee over tea? As they go throughout their day and they continuously begin to attach legitimate, not just surface, but legitimate reasons to the choices that they make, it will all begin to trend and show a pattern. They become more self-aware, they can make better decisions.
Okay, so you start out with fairly innocuous, harmless topics, and then you get deeper with why they think the way they do.
Because I learned in counseling that if I give my client a quick win,
Yes.
then they're more apt to get hooked onto it and they'll stick with it longer.
Okay.
Because they've got that initial success that gives them a feeling of fulfillment and that they're actually accomplishing something, and they'll stick with it longer.
Okay. In your book, I think it does a very good job of giving practical advice of how to cope with suffering and how to gain control over one's support group. In chapter 2 of your book, you mentioned the term family of choice and the need to be connected to it. Can you tell us more about that?
Family of choice is a term for families that are healthy in places where your family may not be, so that you expose yourself to the healthy side of whatever the issue is that your family may have. Getting that exposure and that experience is paramount because it gives you a balance, and you're not just exposed to the negative, so that because as you become an adult, you will be put into situations where life will become a pressure cooker, and what went in is what is going to come out. So if your only exposure was to the negative, then the negative is what you're going to give. But if you have that level of exposure to the positive, and you see what true love is in a family, and you see what conflict resolution is in a family, then you're more apt to choose something that is healthy when you have a family of your own.
Okay.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Okay. Let's go ahead with your next.
And along those lines, I mean, there's an exercise in your book called the Letters of Gratitude exercise. This is more along the positive, remaining positive. Can you tell us the purpose of the Letters of Gratitude exercise mentioned in your book and speak of its significance?
Letters of gratitude is twofold. And one where the mind-hand connection, and where when you are writing out what you're thankful for and what you're grateful for. Yes. The second thing is the imagery, because when you remember the good times, you remember things that you were grateful for, it will help wash away some of the negativity that you went through, so that you don't continue to relive or rehash your negative events over and over and over again. You've got these positive experiences and situations that you've had in your past. You can hold on to these. That grateful feeling will give you a full feeling of meaning and purpose.
Oh my goodness.
And then when you have that inside, it will permeate out, and that's what you will give to the world.
Beautiful.
Versus the negativity that a lot of us walk around
so
with.
It's like you're getting us to tell another story.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Perspective.
Positive story.
Perspective.
I love it.
There's another exercise in your book that you mentioned, or you talk about dispose of distractions activity. I found that very interesting, and it seems like it can be very helpful in improving one's social support group. Can you talk about that
disposing of distractions? That's where I have people actually go down and list people that they spend time with during their day, their entire contact list from their phone. Once they have all of the names down for like a month or two, each time they are around that person, they are to write down the emotion that they feel when they're around that person. At the end of that time period, when you pull that list out to go back through it, then it's time to make some decisions. Because if you got people that continuously make you feel negative, then it's time to sit down and have a conversation with that person, or it's time for you to figure out in your circles, your sphere, let's say you have 5 circles from inner to outer, maybe some people need to be moved to the 5th circle instead of having that constant access to you in that 1st circle.
I love it. So instead of them having front stage, you
Yes.
need to move them to the balcony?
Yes, you do.
So you create distance between you and the ones that tend to harm you.
Yes.
Okay.
Love it.
All right.
Love it.
Are there any other techniques that you use that are your favorites when helping clients?
I'd say reality, just a simple reality check. Because a lot of people, when they sit down to talk about their goals or their dreams, life skills, it all comes down to fear. And we can dig a rabbit hole of what we think will happen or why we think it will happen. Let's just sit down and deal with what we have in front of us right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, I like to thank both of you. We could talk again, and I guess you're going to both have to come back again, because now there's the exercises that are powerful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Anita, wonderful. Jabbar, fantastic. Well, coming up next, we'll be talking with Linda Eatmon-Jones. She is an award-winning author, quality of life blogger. So please stay right there. We'll be right back. Well, welcome to the show, Linda Eatmon-Jones. Oh my goodness. So tell us about your career.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. My career is probably a mixed bag. It started out first in technology. I was one of those nerdies. I worked in pension trustee, doing models for actuarials, and also I worked with finance technology doing models, financial models in the secondary market. So really the first part of my career was pretty much with technology and systems. Then I started to think, I like to work more on the people side. So I went back to school, I picked up a couple of degrees, knowledge management, sounds like dealing with people, and organization development, and also business administration. And then I ran 4 nonprofits in the metropolitan area. However, most of the time they wanted my finance background because nonprofits do have to have money. So I spent a lot of my time in the nonprofits, even though I love working. Suicide prevention, child abuse, youth leadership. I ran 6 tax centers in underserved areas in DC, but still there's this struggle to gain money. And so most of my weekends I spent fundraising for the nonprofits.
Oh my word, that's beautiful. So, you wrote these beautiful books, Thank You, Daddy, and Touchstone. Which one would you like to touch on first?
Well, we could do Thank You, Daddy, because that's the most recent. I write about, the book series is called Touchstones for Impact, because there's so many people in our lives every day that we don't even see the kind of differences that they're making.
Yes.
I call them touchstones because their behaviors are the touchstones.
Behavior is a touchstone.
Their behaviors are things that really set a standard or a criteria that other people look at and they go, gee, I wonder how that happened.
Yes.
Well, because these are the unsung heroes. They go about their business every day, never asking for anything in return, and they just do. My stepfather is an example of a touchstone of selflessness. Wow. I was adopted. It was really against his parents' wishes. In a small,
I wasn't made to read that.
I know.
Wow.
In a small town, it was difficult to go against anything.
Yes, yes.
But Daddy did. He gave me his name, which I think is the most that any fatherless child could ask for.
That's right.
And then he gave me an opportunity to grow in a family. And in that book, I talk about his touchstones where he taught me things about how to pay forward. Don't worry about trying to pay someone for what they've done for you. You try to pay someone in the future when you see an opportunity to pay forward.
Oh, I see. So don't worry about trying to do. Okay, I get it. I get that.
And there are 12 lessons in the book, and each one of those are lessons that would let any child know, because I wrote it from the perspective of the adopted child. Many books are written about how to adopt, what to do if you want to adopt.
Yes.
What's the sense of the recipient? And that's what I try to do. And that also is a way to let others know that if you are thinking about it, there are so many benefits you can give to a fatherless child.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful. So when you were writing about this, you wrote the books because of, the experiences that you had. And I love what you wrote, because now it's becoming my quote. I've been quoting you lately. You can be a superhero, no cape required.
No cape required.
Tell me about it. Tell our viewers about that.
Okay, I think that there are so many times each day, seriously, that each one of us are a story. We're doing some things. In fact, to some extent, Ingrid, you are. You're doing a story with your particular program. And you go on, and people will say, gee, I would like to do what she's doing. But time gets ahead of us. The day gets ahead of us. The week gets ahead of us.
Yes.
And we don't find the time to either pass on the lessons that we've learned. And I am saying, be a story.
Be a story.
Or tell a story. No cape required.
Be a story.
Or tell a story. No cape required.
No
cape required.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Yeah. So now, the other part that we have to let our viewers know is about your blog.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's really something.
I love, actually, I kind of backdoored into all of this writing. If you think about what I said earlier, I'm really a little nerdy. System thinking, even when I wrote these books on what I write, I do project plans. Now, what author does a project plan?
I've never heard an author doing a project plan.
Well, that's me. And then I work the plan, and when I get all the milestones done, and etc., then I can submit my manuscript. Now, but blogs are a little bit different. I thought blogs would get more into get out of this structure, Linda, and then just write about what you see each day and what you
Yes.
think about.
Yes.
And that's what I do in the blogs.
Oh.
I try to have a sensitivity to being kind to yourself. Sometimes we are harder on ourselves than anyone could ever be. And my blogs are that way.
Absolutely.
Think about just everyday things. Think about how we want to do things. And we're so hard on ourselves because we said, well, we didn't do the 20 things that we should have done. Well, you know, the 10 you did were fine.
And the 10 we did was, you're so right. And then I like, you also did a blog about politically correct.
Yeah. Actually, political correctness has been something that I've struggled with even before the term came out. Because in my book, Thank You, Daddy, one of the lessons that Daddy taught me was, hey, look, you know, everybody doesn't move on your time. So you're going to have to sort of step back and listen and hear what it is that people are doing to allow you to know how to respond. That was his way of actually telling me things like that. Now, today with the political correctness, there are things that I do need to learn in terms of how to speak in a way that reflects my heart. Sometimes I think that my system thinking part of me goes directly to the brain and it sort of bypasses the heart. And so with political correctness, I just want to make sure that we don't overplay what it is I think we're trying to accomplish. And so I say, when is political correctness correct? I think it's correct when you touch your heart. When you think about in your heart, what is it that I'm really trying to convey? Are my intentions like my heart?
Right. You know, because when I was looking at that, and then the power of encourage,
Yes.
what is that?
Okay, encouragement. I can be encouraged, and we all can be encouraged by so many different things. Again, these are the little things that we take for granted every day. For example, one of my biggest inspirations, which is a form of encouragement I get, is from my 2 grandkids. They're 4 and 7 years old. And they have a way of seeing the world with such innocence and trust, where I will ask them something simple as, well, where would you want to go? Well, Grammy, wherever you want to take me. Now, there's trust there.
Wow.
There is so much trust that we have with one another that sometimes we sort of put it aside. So therefore, the encouragement that we would get from that person, we don't get it because ourselves, we will look and try to find something wrong with it.
Oh, I see. So this gives us a chance to look internally and say, wait a minute, let's let's look at ourselves.
Exactly. Let's slow down.
That in itself, particularly in this area, it means so much throughout the world. We just need to slow down.
And don't question everything that comes to you, that it may have a bad or a connotation that may not be good. Just trust that it does come the right way.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing, is that, you know, you want to plan, and I feel as if, you know, I want to plan everything. You know, I do this show, but it's like, but now, you just said something really powerful. Everyone does not operate on your own time. On my time.
Exactly.
I need to remember that. I'm sure out there they're laughing like, yeah, let's see how soon, how long she remembers that one. But that's insightful. And also beautiful, because apparently that's passed on to your grandchildren, because they said, hey, you know, they trust you enough to say,
exactly. And let us not all forget that it is about stories that we learn from our parents, our grandparents, stories that are passed down to us, stories that we tell each other. We've told stories to each other today.
Yes.
Can we use those stories to help us tomorrow when we encounter something that is somewhat similar, that may not be on our same time frame?
Right.
But it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
How can our viewers get more information about what you do and how?
I have a website, and it's real simple. It's my name.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Linda Eatmon-Jones, no hyphens, no periods, no commas or
Okay.
anything, .com. And on the website, there not only are the books, but also there's my blog, and there are a lot of events that I do in terms of if I'm talking someplace or doing a book review. All those things are there on the website.
Well, continued success. A pleasure meeting and interviewing you, Linda. Continued success. Thank you for being
thank
on
you.
Ingrid's World. I would like to thank Dr. Jabbar Hicklin, Anita Washington, and Linda Eatmon-Jones for being exceptional guests. Our quote this time is from Maya Angelou. If I am good to myself, if I'm not good to myself, how can I expect anyone else to be good to me? Thank you for watching Ingrid's World, and don't forget to friend us on Facebook and follow Ingrid's World VA on Twitter and Instagram. And if you miss an episode, watch Ingrid's World on YouTube.